Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. I wanted to kind of do one tonight. I hadn't had a chance to do one for a couple days, so I figured we'd continue on our working on through our list here. So we're going to talk about something from Drewstringfellow. I appreciate it, Drew. Alcohol on retention. Let's go ahead and talk about that. But let's go first. We're going to do that. We're going to do some shout-outs. Where are we at? Let's see. Let's talk about this. Kongo, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Harrio, thank you. Dirtymint, old-time friend, thank you. John Jennings, also an old-time friend, thank you. Shahidhasen, where am I from? I'm from everywhere. Actually, I'll give you a hint. It's in the Midwest somewhere. That's not too much of a hint, but I give you something. There you go. Thank you, my friend. Mr. Fred Webb, one, thank you. Bmorris, thank you. Gain confidence all the time. Good job, Bmorris. Keep it up. Keep up the good work, and retention will do that for you. Give a lot of confidence and continue doing it. Ametal F80, does SR get you out of difficult situations? Yes, it can, because you're not as anxious. You're not as worried. You're able to have a more clear head, I believe, and you're able then to make decisions that are better decisions for you. So you can probably get yourself out of difficult situations. Better yet, you probably won't get yourself in situations because of the retention and the learning how to control yourself more. The Burger King, thank you, my friend, as usual. Woundswonder, thank you. John Jennings, again, thank you. Calm. Is swimming good for transmuting? Yes, absolutely. I do a lot of swimming myself. Weightlifting, exercising, anything you can do that's going to, first of all, keep your mind off of lusting. Second of all, the better thing to do is get that muscles moving and working those muscles so you're able to transmit. And we've talked about some exercises doing that. I think I had a video on that lately. To do that, you can actually go ahead and do that, but that's good. So, Edward, thank you. We're talking about why SR if I'm shy. Well, we'll talk about that probably in another video, but yeah, that's probably the better reason that you can overcome your shyness and gain more confidence, which is what my problem was. I was very shy when I was in high school and college, and one of the reasons I took speech was because I had to kind of try to overcome some real deficiencies that I had in speaking in front of people, speaking to people, period, and this has helped a lot. So I think you attack your areas that are deficient, and you go after those to make them better. So, Duro. The title of the book we talk about is Peter Kendler, The Ancient Secrets of the Fountains of Youth. It's also gone by a Fountain of Youth. There's lots of different editions of it over since the 1930s or 40s. I think you can find several editions of it. The last one had a few more editions too, and other people talking about it, but just kind of substantiating the fact that these things do work and that there is something to do with the idea of chakras and things like that. So, and Oleg, my friend, beautiful women are angry if you ignore them. That is very true, because they're used to being validated, they're used to attention, and they don't give that to them, then they struggle with that. So you're right on target, Oleg. But once again, you make the decision on who you want to talk to and make sure they're worthwhile for you and your goals and things like that. All right, so enough of those shout outs at 3:30 here. Let's talk about our topic, alcohol on retention. All right, so Drew, you make a very interesting point. Let's talk about things that relate to retention. Now, again, as we look at this whole thing, our whole key idea is to learn self-control. The idea that retention helps you, it helps you in gaining a more insight of who you are, and it's also a way to communicate more with your God, your creator. And because of that, then, you're able to communicate the purpose you have, who you are, and try to become the best high-value male. Most we have males in the audience here, but females as well. And the best high-value person you can become. So when we talk about that, once you are able to retain, you're now looking at life differently. And I've seen that over the last 1,800 days that I've had with this process, looking at life in a different way. And it's a lifestyle change you're making. And yes, you may fall off, and we have lots of people who, go back and, they release and they've got to go back again. And I did that for 47 years, so I totally understand that situation. But remember, this is a lifestyle change. In your mind, you have to start adjusting yourself to say, okay, I am done with looking at women this way. I am done looking at them as, any sexual type of thing. I'm done with that. Now, I know that's hard. That's not an easy thing. And this is why Kendler talked about this as the sixth right. And this is not an easy thing. If you want to become a superhuman, but you will do this. That doesn't mean women will not be attracted to you, because they'll notice the change in you and they'll come after you even more. But you're the one that's actually going to have that control. And because you have that control, now all of a sudden women look at you differently, and now they realize you're a man that's going somewhere, you're high value, you're different than 99% of people out there. Honestly, 99% of people out there have no control, warriors. They're not in control of themselves. Therefore, they let other things around them control them. Whether it's temptation, alcohol, liquor, drugs, whatever it might be, women, they think this is living the high life and enjoying themselves, and you even have commercials about the high life and all that kind of stuff, because this is where the society, the social media, it talks about the fact you should be out there enjoying yourself for yourself. Don't worry about the consequences. Well, what happens is the consequences kill you. And what happens is if you don't, and especially with retention. So if you start with retention, now we talk about learning how to control yourself. And then obviously you think to yourself, okay, I want to have some control here. What are other things I can control? So in my case, what I started doing is doing things that I normally would not have done. This was back 5 years ago now. So the first thing I did when I started going on what I call the monk mode, and not just fapping, but monk mode, where you're basically kind of taking thoughts away and trying not to think about women at all, and trying to kind of move in a whole different direction. I then decided, okay, if I'm going to be able to control this, which I started having a little success at that, then I took cold showers. And cold showers really does a great thing for you. I would highly recommend that for anybody who wants to kind of keep learning how to control themselves and being able to deal with things. That half a second before you decide to jump in that shower, that is a breaking point for people. And if you can do that, you gain confidence. I remember the old character story of James Bond. Now, James Bond did a little bit differently, I think, from what I recall. He took hot showers first, or warm showers first, and then got cold showers and was able to deal with that. And that, I suppose, is okay as well. I think that I've heard people talk about that. I like just to go in and take the cold shower. Or in the morning, it gets you revitalized. All of a sudden, it heightens your testosterone, all kinds of stuff that I've seen it do to me, at least for the time being, over time. So again, now you're controlling how you're reacting to that. And then, of course, you're looking at things like working out and exercising, and then taking in the right foods. All of this is the same type of idea. Now, you also are going to say to yourself, okay, if I'm going to do this and I want to take care of myself, I'm not going to go and indulge in any of these activities that can be a problem. Now, one of the big ones is obviously alcohol. And this is what Drew's kind of talking about. Alcohol is something that can really hurt you if obviously taken to the abuse level. Now, having wine, if you classify wine as part of alcohol, I suppose having wine once in a while, we have wine at church and things like that. That's not going to kill you. In fact, I think there's a lot of studies that show that wine can be effective and for your blood and things like that at times. We're talking about overindulgence in alcohol, getting drunk all the time, drinking beer, what it might be, vodka, cognac, whatever it might be, to the point where you're doing it just to kind of get away from life in general. And when you start doing that, then all of a sudden you're no longer in control. And the control is a big part of this. Control is something that you basically kind of say, okay, I am going to control these behaviors. I'm not going to let something else control me. This is the difference between high-level men and low-level men, or men who are just not going anywhere. And you don't want to be that kind of person that's not going anywhere. So the idea then is to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and then say no to alcohol. I'm going to go ahead and say no then to drugs. I'm going to say no to all of these things that are around that I can get involved in. No to pornography, no to pictures, no to people, to women. All these things you're going to say no to, because the whole key is going to be, how do I control this behavior? How am I able to say, okay, this is something that I need to control? So that's not an easy thing to do. And this is where the trouble is when we talk about alcohol. Alcohol can get you in a different state. And a lot of times I think that people want to be in these different states. They want to forget about life. They want to think about things in a different mental state. And so they purposely, and this is what happened back in the 60s even, with drugs and things like that, LSD and all the things that I saw when I was a kid. I couldn't understand why people did all these type of things. A lot of times I think subconsciously, and I've taught psychology classes in the past, and I think from a psychology standpoint, a lot of these people have unresolved issues, and they're trying to get away from the reality of life day to day. And so they're trying to kind of get out of a state of mind. And this is what they did, back to drugs, and psychedelic drugs are coming back. Those type of things coming back. All that stuff is to alter your thinking, alter your idea of what's happening in your world. And hopefully to the point where it's actually a better type of situation than you currently have. Now, the problem with all this is, even though you drink, the problem with this is, even though you go ahead and do all of this, the problems never go away. They are still there. You're just pushing them back for a short period of time. And people realize that. So no matter if you're having one-night stands, no matter if you're doing drugs, no matter if you're overeating, no matter if you're doing these things, you might be getting away with the current problem of stress for a short time, but it's not going anywhere. And so the key is going to be how to learn how to deal with the stress. And the reason, the way you just deal with that stress is starting to use self-control. And again, retention can help you with that. So alcohol on semen retention is an interesting question. I would say this, Drew, I would say the key is that when you find people who are retention, they're probably going to cut back on the use that they have of alcohol, of any of these things that can hurt their bodies in the long run. And I'm not talking about wine once in a while, but I'm talking about trying to get drunk all the time, blackout, all these type of things that I've seen friends of mine do over the years, just to kind of get away from the reality, and somehow have so-called fun, when in fact they're just kind of destroying themselves. And so the thing is what you really want to do is learn how to self-control. When you learn how to self-control, and you use retention to start with. So I always say the hardest thing to control is your energy. If you can control that energy first, now you can go to other things and transfer that, like cold showers and eating the right foods and, exercising, weightlifting, walking, swimming, all these kind of stuff that we do. And then you can control your temper. Then you can control your reaction to things. Now you're trying to control things more and more, where you're not getting upset, you're not getting stressed out, and those things, which is what causes heart attacks, a lot of things, because people don't know how to deal with the stress and they're not able to control themselves. But if you have these things in your mind, if you're able to kind of focus on these, what are the things that I can use to help me deal with the stress of life, you're better off. I don't think a lot of people drink alcohol because they necessarily like alcohol, at least at the beginning. I mean, my experience is they've seen a lot of people who drink alcohol because it's something that they have with friends and they want to be part of something, or they want to forget about something, and they go out and have some fun, and this is what's called fun, drinking, and those type of things. But I think the thing is when you look at this, what they're trying to do is kind of get an altered state of reality. They're trying to get away from reality for a period of time and try to get into something else. And I think that's kind of where the issue goes. So alcohol itself, I think, is something that a person who's on retention for a longer period of time will probably get away from alcohol. And then certainly I think, anybody who wants to continue to build their own self and make themselves as strong as they can become, and the better they become over time. And like I said, I'm 64, so I've drank very little over the years, maybe a few beers here and there over the years, and certainly some wine. But, I've never gotten to a point where I actually even liked drinking all that much. I remember when I was in high school, I probably drank more, only because I wanted to I wanted to get heavier, and my dad was kind of supervising that to try to get heavier for football because there was a lot of calories in regular beer. But that was a bad reason back then too. So so when you talk about this, you're kind of focusing on trying to figure out, what am I doing this for? And so that's when you start analyzing yourself. You're trying to figure out who you really are and why it's important to focus on this type of thing. So I think certainly alcohol is something that is obviously in moderation, and there's nothing wrong with having a beer here and there and things like that. I remember times in business meetings I had to kind of fake through some a little bit and had dry martinis and then watered them down so that I wouldn't, I'd at least be having a glass of something, or walk around in parties and having a beer. Though I never really had the beer, I just carried it with me just to look like I was having a beer. A lot of those impressionable things you do when you're younger, and those type of things. But I think the whole thing is alcohol is something that, is common in society. We have to learn how to deal with it. However, when it comes to retention, obviously, it's not something that's going to be in your repertoire of things you're going to do when you're actually retaining. And so alcohol, Drew, is something I think you should avoid the best you can. If you have to do it certain times because it's a habit you formed, try to wean yourself off of it at times. But I think the whole thing is that you don't want it to actually hurt you in the long run. And I've seen it happen to lots of people. They can become addicted and they have to go to AA meetings and things, all the kinds of stuff like that, because they can't say no. And I think this is where the self-control comes into play. If you can't say no to something, I don't care what it is, you're now a slave to that addiction. I don't care what the addiction really is. It could be buying something. It could be, whatever it might be. The addiction has you. So you got to learn how to say no to things. I don't care what that no is, but learn how to do that. And then you're going to be better off as time goes on as well. All right. So, Drew, I hope this helps a little bit. Answer your question, at least my thoughts on alcohol. I've never been a heavier drinker in alcohol. I never liked alcohol that much. I never really saw the purpose of a lot of it in my mind. But playing football, having a lot of experiences over the years, I've had a lot of people who've drank alcohol, obviously, and family members and all that kind of stuff. And I think when you go on this type of program we're talking about, retention and self-control, then you quickly find out that alcohol is something that you just don't need in your life. Same thing with drugs, the same thing with marijuana, weed, whatever you want to call it. The old days we used to call it weed all the time. And even overeating, all these things you cut back on because you're making yourself the best person you can be, physically, psychologically, and intellectually, and physically. And so why would you put stuff in your body like that to do that? So just my thoughts, my friend, and hopefully that helps you a little bit. If you have more questions, let me know. Thank you guys for all your comments, feedback, all the great things that you guys do to give me more topics and ideas. I got a flood more now since I put this list together, so we'll be doing these for a long time. I think I'm at 971 or something like that, so we're getting close to 1,000. Maybe we'll do a little 1,000 celebration type of video at some point like that too. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these. It's like I said, I do it because I really care about this topic, and I do think that males especially, because of this toxic masculinity nonsense that we've seen over the years, and it is changing. I know that for sure, but I do think that this is a battle we've had for a long time of trying to keep our masculinity when people in society and things like that have told us that this is not good for us. And I think this is kind of something we have to battle with all the time. So, all right. So anyway, guys, I always leave you with two things. First of all, every day is a new day to a great warrior, and you guys are each great warriors. And secondly, as we just said, this is a battle all the time. Every day is a battle because they're trying to strip away your basic masculinity, your basic idea of who you are as a male, and your strength and all that energy inside of you. And the bottom line, the bottom reason the devil wants to do this is to get you away from God, and to get you away from God and to support him, support Satan. And so the more you do these type of things, the more you're moving towards Satan. And unless you do that, you're more to God, and God recognizes that, and hopefully helps you, give you some purpose and moving and conquesting life the way it should be. So, all right, guys. Anyway, a second one is basically that you got to keep fighting this devil, because we have to continue to battle on. God bless you guys. Have a great day.